Welcome to this week's episode of the Foresting Tomorrow podcast. And it's not our normal surroundings. It's not in the studio. We are actually in the northern part of Denmark. We are in Hirtshals. And we are visiting Naturmødet.
Naturmødet. Nature festival, if I should translate it somehow.
Yes. And Naturmødet is all about?
It's all about nature.
Nature.
To keep it, to say a brief...
Yeah, that's very brief. There's a lot of companies, a lot of organization, a lot of politicians, and it's
Talking
a 3-day
nature,
festival, all about nature.
Yeah.
And our take on this, and the reason why we're here is just to talk with a lot of interesting people, learn a lot.
Yeah.
There's a lot of talks that we need to attend to.
And we'll try to capture it all.
Yeah, and of course you could listen in to it, but it's mostly, I would probably call it a video log.
Yeah.
Yeah, so maybe go check it out on YouTube.
Yeah.
Okay, we have a special friend and a person that is, I actually think, quite famous up here. At least that's the last couple of years we have seen you. It seems like there's all kinds of people around you all the time.
Yeah, that's the thing. You just gotta narrow the stage enough, and then everyone's gonna be a little bit famous.
Yeah. Okay, so you're Alexander Holm,
Yep.
And of course you're well known in sort of the arena of nature in Denmark. Probably not as known outside of Denmark.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yet. Yeah,
Do you have
exactly.
ambitions? Going outside of Denmark?
Yeah, I've got some goals, but I don't think I can fulfill them. So for now, it's just gonna be dreams. But maybe one day. I mean, David Attenborough, he's getting kind of old, you know.
Kind of old, yeah.
Yeah.
He's 99, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Had his birthday just recently, so I mean, not saying that someone needs to fill his shoes, but I guess that is the reality of it, right?
Yeah.
And I sound like him. I got the same sort of English, the same accent almost. So I mean,
Almost, yes.
it's not too. I can see maybe there's a slot to be filled.
Yeah, and I guess you also have guys around you that could operate a camera, right?
Yeah, plenty of those.
I know.
Yes, definitely.
Nice. So, is this your third time here?
Yeah, exactly. It's my third time.
Yeah, maybe we should do a proper introduction to you.
Yeah.
Alexander Holm, you are a co-host on the Billy Skit.
Yeah, the cheap shit.
What it's called in Danish, at least.
Exactly.
Yeah, and then you're also, and I think that started before the cheap shit.
Yeah.
Den dyriske time.
Yeah, the beastie hour.
Yeah. Nice. How long time have you actually been doing that?
Well, the podcasting has been going on for a bit more than 4 years now.
Wow.
And then the radio program, which is more live,
Yeah.
a bit more quick in the pace, has been
Yeah.
going on for a bit more than a year now. So yeah, it's been some time. There's been plenty of hours in front of one of those.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And at least I spent quite some time listening to your stuff, and I think the guests that you have on and the themes that you deal with on the postcard and also the radio. It's so great, so good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'll take that.
Okay, so of course, I mean, you have always been standing up for nature. I think your phrase is something like that the nature can't speak for itself. So your work is to speak on the behalf of it, right?
Yeah, it sounds like clever words. Something I would have said, I think. Yeah. Definitely. Yeah.
So how do you sort of go about this nature meeting? How do your sort of next days looks like?
Well, that's sort of filled, but in a good way, I'd say. It's very cozy here because there's a lot of people who are interested in nature in Denmark, and we all come together here at the nature meeting, and then all of a sudden, it doesn't sound too sexy, but the internet almost becomes alive, right? All these people that you are debating with or talking with or working with, all of them are gathered here in like the furthest away part of Denmark, if you come from where I come from, right?
Yes.
And so it's very cozy. It's just going about it. If you want to walk a distance that takes perhaps 10 minutes to walk, here it takes an hour because you need to stop. And then someone wants to talk about trees or some shit, right? And then there's all that happening. So it's some debates and some talks, some speeches, and then just getting drunk.
That's a nice program.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you say some talks and some speech. I guess you have quite a few, don't you?
Yeah, there's some. But here it's a bit shorter.
Yeah.
It's not like, sometimes there's a talk where it's an hour where we go through lots of stuff. But here it's a bit more rapid-paced. So it's more like speeches, like if some political party wants someone to come in and kick them in the butt and tell them what's up, they can ask me to do it.
And you're pretty good at that.
Yeah.
Yes, and then they can tell everyone like, yeah, we're green too. And then I'm like, yeah, right.
Exactly.
So no, it's good. It's a fun gathering. It's like a yearly event where it's just going to be nice and cozy.
Yeah. What do you think it means for a country like Denmark to have such a festival or whatever we want to call it?
Well, it's good because it puts some emphasis on how important nature is to us.
Yeah.
I mean, that we can gather, like 30 or 40,000 people up here.
Yeah, it's quite amazing.
Yeah, for some days just discussing all of this. That's good.
Yeah.
And it's also sort of a Danish speciality. We'd like to sit down and drink coffee and eat cake or drink beer and eat something else and just talk about stuff.
Yeah.
So that can be super good because we're usually not we're not enemies. But at the same time, it's difficult to push things forward if everyone's just friends and we all need to be aboard the same boat because someone's just gonna, slow down the process. So I think there's good and bad things to it, but it's definitely nice and hyggeligt.
Yeah, and hyggeligt. Mm-hmm. And also, if you look at people attending the festival, it's everything from the kids from school and politicians, and it's like everything.
That too, yeah.
When you look back at this year's edition, what do you sort of look back at? What do you think would be the main thing that you have gone away with?
From this year?
Yeah, and this time it's not
Maybe it's not the award.
The award.
Ah, shit, yeah, I can't win it 2 years in a row. I think the main thing and the thing I look forward to the most is the Friday bar down at Danmarks Naturfredningsforenings tent, because it's just so nice.
That's a nice point you're making there.
Mm-hmm.
Then I will also attend that one.
Yeah, you should definitely attend. You should prioritize that.
Yeah.
It's super nice. And there's free beer.
Nice.
That's
always nice.
Yes. The only problem with it is that it only lasts for usually it lasts 2 hours.
Yeah.
So you're just getting perfectly tipsy and then they're like, all right, see you. So, but it's always good. Yeah, exactly. And then from that point on, you just get too drunk. That's not nice. But the Friday bar of DN, that's always, it's fucking perfect. You should come there and attend, definitely.
We'll put it on the list.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Alexander. Oh, do you have a question?
Mm-hmm. So where are we hurting the most nature-wise in Denmark? Is it the oceans? Is it on land? Where are we?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's, the majority of the Danish territory is ocean. It's like the area at sea is more than twice as large as the area we have on land.
Good point.
And on land, there's not that much left to destroy, because we've been going at it a lot. We've been fucking plowing and shooting.
We've been good at it.
Yeah, and fencing, and it's just all messed up, right?
Yeah.
But in the sea, we still have a lot of... it's just one big nature area.
Mm.
But we do everything we can to kill it. It's almost it's like what we call...
mass extinction,
Yeah, an active dødshjælp, right? It's like assisted killing, or what you call it, when you kill someone who wants to die, except the ocean probably doesn't want it, but we bottom trawl it everywhere we can.
Yeah.
It's just like, it's almost a national sport, right? And then we have the nitrogen surplus from the agriculture just spilling into the coastal waters, fucking it up. So, we're definitely destroying the most at sea, and we're doing it actively, and it's almost like we hate the sea.
Is it speeding up, or is it, let's say, stable?
It's been stable. And in a very bad place.
Yeah.
And we are taking some small steps now to sort of ease some of the pressure.
Yeah.
But the steps, I think they're too small. But of course, I'm a conservation biologist, right?
Yeah.
So I have to be a bit radical here, but we could definitely do more. And we're not winning anything by bottom trawling. It's the opposite. We're losing a lot. So
it's doing something on the short term, just gains.
Exactly. Now it's just a stubborn process, really, because someone doesn't want to change, but everyone's like, come on, guys, you can't keep fucking plowing nature areas.
It kind of makes sense, right?
Exactly. So it's definitely at sea, but on land we have destroyed a lot. We still do it sometimes, but there's not a lot left to destroy.
No, we already been over that.
Yeah, we've been good. We've been good at it.
Well, there's, we need to plant a lot of trees now. That's at least part of the, I don't know what
Yeah, just leave it be and they're going to plant themselves. It's usually how it works, right?
Right.
Just and you want to have untouched nature and we're like, let's touch it. It makes very little sense, but just leave it be and maybe put out some big grazes and it's going to do fine.
Yeah.
I think so.
Perfect. Cool.
All right.
Thanks for your time, man.
Yeah, of course.
Looking forward to seeing you on the bar and a lot of
Friday
talks and we'll participate in those. Those are marked.
Yeah, fuck the talks. That's whatever. Just come to the bar. Yeah, that's definitely a top point. Yeah.
My man.
All right. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
First of all, thank you so much for taking the time, Signe. It's an absolute pleasure that we get a chance to talk to you. You're a professor in biodiversity and biology.
Yeah.
Is that fair to say?
Yes, that's fair to say.
Chairman of the Danish Biodiversity Council.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you're one of the experts.
Yes.
At least around here in this regard.
Yes.
Okay, so the first question that we want to talk to you about is the status of biodiversity in Denmark.
What is it? Yeah.
Yes. So, in short, biodiversity in Denmark is still under heavy pressure.
Yeah.
There's a lot of threats to biodiversity. Sort of globally, we are asking the question: have we managed to stop the decline of biodiversity? And when we answer that question for Denmark, it's clear we have not. Okay. It's actually only 1% of all indicators that have been looked at where we can say, yes, we have stopped the decline.
Okay. 1%.
Yes. So, and
so
if
it is a crisis.
It is a crisis. If we look to the terrestrial ecosystems, so all the habitats on land, it is very bad. If we look to the marine, it's even worse, and the aquatic system, even more. Yeah. So it's all ecosystems.
Yeah. So what do we do about it?
So what we can do about it is that we need to create much more nature, big natural areas that are protected, so where we remove all the threats. We stop harvesting, we stop cutting down trees, and we basically just let nature be nature, so that all the wonderful organisms, biodiversity, can again find places to live and their populations increase.
Great. Of course, now our profession is within technology and so on. What role do you see technology play in that?
In solving it.
Yeah.
Yes. So in terms of solving it, I think you can look at two aspects. There is technology that can help us use land more wisely, and then there's technologies that can help us monitor the recovery of biodiversity, because it's all about now we are on a decline, and we need to make sure that we are basically fostering recovery of biodiversity. Yeah. So when fostering that, we can do either by using technology that makes it reduces the pressures, and we can use technology actually monitoring that we're going the right way. Yeah. And that's where we can use types like remote sensing, drones, eDNA, different types of monitoring approaches.
How far are we on that in Denmark?
I think the challenge is that with these type of metrics, we can mainly, and measurements, we can mainly look at like overall structures, habitats. But I also think it's fair to say that that's where we need to start. We need to be able to monitor how much area have we set aside for nature. Have we managed to create a quality of that nature that is actually improving the conditions for biodiversity? It's not only about area, it's also about quality. That we can basically capture from these different types of technologies. I think that is the current status. It's very difficult to basically use biodiversity responses as a metric of how are we improving, because biodiversity, and especially the threatened biodiversity, are responding very slowly. So we need to look at that we create the basis for recovery. That is the first step.
Okay, makes sense.
Makes sense.
Yes.
So of course, I could imagine you have a very tight program these days. When you get home, what do you think would be the main thing that you have sort of learned or
taken away from this?
Yeah. So I hope that we have managed to have a good dialogue, a nuanced discussion about why do we in Denmark need much more area that is protected. Mm-hmm. So the global and European legislation are basically focusing on 30% protected area.
Yeah.
And 10% strictly protected.
Yep.
And we need to have much more protected area in Denmark. We have about 2%, where the Biodiversity Council we have judged that actually contribute to recover biodiversity, and we need just much more.
Yeah.
And we need to have a dialogue about how do we get from seeing all the challenges, the barriers, what we as individuals are losing when we create more, to have a dialogue on what are we actually gaining when we get much more biodiversity. And then when we create much more areas with the main purpose of biodiversity, we also need to have a dialogue of all the area outside the protected areas. There still need to be room for biodiversity. We should not destroy all small habitats everywhere.
No.
We still need to create and foster basically life, because that will also lower all these challenges we have that we individually feel we are restricted. So some perspectives where we are accepting that there's things we need to unlearn.
Yeah.
There's things we need to
Unlearn that the hard part. That's the hard part.
It is a very, very hard path,
Yeah.
but also that we will gain something.
Yeah.
That it's not just that we are losing something, but we are actually also, as a society, as individuals, we will gain a lot of things. Yes.
Great. Well, Signe, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah.
It's an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, and have a nice couple of days.
I'm sure I will.
Yeah.
It's great to have
Yeah.
so many inspiring discussions.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we're standing here with Bengt Holst, and you're the chair of the Danish Animal Council.
Animal Ethics Council.
Animal Ethics Council, to get it right. So we just talked about all the years that you have been here, and now the weather is quite bad.
Unfortunately.
So how's it been so far?
It's been great. I mean, yesterday the sun was still shining, so we knew it was going to be cold and some rainy, but that's okay as long as it's dry. Right now it's a little bit bad. But the program is fabulous because now you can see there are so many good discussions going on, and this is exactly what this meeting can do. And I think you have here a democratic way of discussing things. All different issues and some really tough issues also. And you can do it within a very proper format, and instead of having a fight, then you can discuss it, and we can disagree on very many things very heavily, but still discuss it firmly. And I think this is what we need in Denmark. And I mean, normally you have 30,000-40,000 people coming to this meeting, and this is good because then you get at least many good messages out to the ordinary people. This is great.
And also in these times that this is very unique way of doing things.
And I saw yesterday we had it was a good discussion between the Minister of Environment and the Minister of what we call the Nature Management in Denmark. They sat together with two podcast hosts and had a discussion about all the tough issues. The wolf in Denmark, having horses and cattle out in nature, etc. And people sitting around for a whole hour. And it was a really good discussion, and it was calm, and despite many disagreements, still in a good tone and in a really good fashion. So this is what we need for the discussion in Denmark.
Yeah, exactly. And also, as you say, you could have ministers, and then, of course, we can't see this on camera, but there's like 20 kids standing next to us.
Exactly, and that's the beauty of it. That's what I call a very good democratic process, which I think we should be really taking care of it and make sure that this can happen also 10 years from now, because it's unique for Denmark that we can have it like this.
Yeah, that was actually my next question. I think this is a Danish thing, right?
It is a Danish thing, and I talked to some people last year or the year before last year, and coming from Germany, some from Spain. And they talked about this, that this is fabulous. How can you do it? Because many places, when you start doing this, you'll have a lot of protests coming on and a lot of... It's difficult to get people together to discuss these tough issues. This is really something we can do in Denmark. we should be proud of it.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah. So you have a very long and glorious career. Has the way that we sort of perceive nature, has that changed throughout the years? How do you see that?
Yeah, I think so. We have become a little bit more distant-like. The way we look at nature is, well, it's going two ways, I would say, because first of all, our look at animals is a little bit, we are getting too far from nature, and because we're not depending on nature anymore in the same way we were before.
Oh yeah.
So we think nature is something really strange out there, which is only to look at and not to be part of it. We forget about the processes in nature. So we think animals should be kept like pets, which is wrong, of course. On the other side, there is a bigger focus now on nature management than we had before, because earlier we just said, well, you have nature around and it's taking care of itself. Now we know this is not the case, and now the focus has shifted, so we now know we have to do something. And the question is now what to do, and then to turn around the situation we have right now, where nature in Denmark is very small. And we need to make sure that we can change it so we get much more nature. And very sound nature. And this is the challenge we have right now. This is exactly what is discussed during this meeting. How can we do this in the future? And what has been decided by the Danish Parliament a few months ago, actually, about how we can deal with this, where we have got the agricultural people, we've got the politicians, and we've got the nature protection organization together and deciding on how to do this. This is also unique that we can do this. And now it's a question of how do we implement this. And this has to be discussed.
It's interesting.
It is interesting.
Do you have a positive outlook? Or?
I do have, first of all, because we have some ministers in charge right now that really think this is a personal matter for them. They want to make this happen. That's a good thing. But also I can see that people really have realized now we have to do something, because we've got so far down. And the situation for the nature is so bad, and now we really have to do something. So we have much more focus on it, and people want to make things happen. They just don't know exactly how to do it, and that's why we have to agree on different ways. And I'm positive we'll probably never get the whole way to what the ideal nature situation, but we get very close to it, I think. It will take years, and we'll have a lot of discussions, and we'll also make mistakes on the way, but as long as we keep focus and stick to what we know is right and build it on facts and not on emotions, then we can get far, very far.
Now you also briefly touched upon the wolf. I think that's something that takes up quite a few discussions at the moment. What's your take on that whole?
I might say I think the wolf has come by itself. It's not an introduced wolf, and the wolf was 200 years ago. It was still in Denmark, and then the last one was shot, and then we have lived 200 years without a wolf, which means that we have made our living in a way that in a landscape where there were no wolves. So we have get used to having no wolves around. So now when it's come back, we're not prepared for it, and that's why we have the big the conflicts right now.
There's a lot of calibration that needs to happen.
We have to change our minds about the wolf and say, okay, how do we protect the cattle, the sheep and other animals out there? Because in countries where they've had the wolves since hundreds of years and still have them, they've learned to live with the wolf instead of living against the wolf. And we have to do that the same. So for me, it's natural that the wolf is coming back, and I think it's really good it's coming back. And we have to find out how to live with it, and not against it.
Have we actually had issues with not having the wolf here, from a nature point of view?
We have had issues because we have not had a predator that can actually take away the sick animals, etc. So we have always had many hunters in Denmark. So we have got people who could go out hunting road here. I mean, we shoot around 80,000 deer every year, and few years ago it was 100,000. So that's the surplus. That surplus would never have been here if we had a wolf, because that would take its share of it. And we can also feel now that in the places where we have the wolf in Jutland, the number of deer, I mean roe deer and red deer, it has gone down because of the wolf. And then we have to find out how we meet the challenges this brings us towards our domestic animals, I mean the sheep. But there are tools that can keep the wolves away from the sheep. We just have to use the tools. And also we have to realize that the wolf is not dangerous for us as human beings. We think a wolf is a dangerous animal, and it is, but not for human beings. It's a dangerous animal for the roe deer and for the red deer, etc. But because of all these tales, the stories about the wolf, we all think, wow, it's something. It
has a very bad reputation.
Exactly. And so, but we should not start shooting it because of its reputation. We should do it based on facts. And the fact is, it's not dangerous for humans, and it's still around. And when it sees humans, it will always get back. That doesn't mean that we cannot see that in going through the villages, etc., because they are very curious themselves. So they try to explore every area they can. But when they see human beings close, then they get away. But normally, when we think animals are scared, we think they run away, but they don't, because they're also curious. So what you can see is they get away and look back a little bit and see what does he follow or doesn't he follow, and then if you don't follow it, he'll just stay. And then some people interpret it as if, well, then it's because he's not afraid of me. That is wrong. So we should not be afraid of them, and we have to make people aware of this, and then we should accept them as part of our nature.
Have you ever encountered a wolf in
Not in Jutland, no, not in Denmark. I've seen it in Sweden, but not in Denmark.
Okay. I guess you have seen quite a few species throughout the years.
Yes, right? And also bears and etc. And as long as you, well, there are some animals. I mean, we expect people in the tropics to protect the tiger, protect the lion, etc., and the hippos and the buffaloes, etc. And they are much more dangerous. I mean, they really every year they take a lot of human beings. But how can we ask those people down there to protect them and live with them if we cannot accept a wolf in our own backyard?
Which isn't dangerous.
Exactly. So that's a big question, and that's something we have to discuss. And that discussion is also on many of these stands during this meeting.
So that and I can look at the rewilding post that you have with introducing animals back into nature. That's also a big discussion.
It is a big discussion, and also we have a discussion later on today in this tent and also in another tent there about what is good welfare for animals. And we very fast come to the next question is, what about those animals that we release into the wild? Can we do that, or is it cruel to animals to do it? In my perspective, if animals can get out into the wild instead of standing in a little grass area and in the stables, it's much better behavior for them. It's much better welfare for them, because they can suddenly perform much more behavior than they can in these small areas. Then there are challenges, but we know how to deal with these challenges. So, and of course, they are not supposed to starve in these areas. So we have to make sure that there is food enough, both from a quality point of view and from a quantity point of view. And if we can ensure the animals have what they need and still accept that during wintertime they will always get a bit thinner, much thinner than they are during summertime, but not totally. I mean, not like some of the pictures you can see over there, but still thinner, because every animal during wintertime they get thinner, and then during summertime they eat a lot, so they get thicker again, so they can resist the coming winter. And we have to accept that, and that's another problem we have with our view on animals. We think they should always be fat, and we really think horses should be fat, much fatter than they are in real life. And we think they should be the same size all year round, which is wrong. So we have to have a change of minds also with this. In this
but there's also a lot of learning going on, right?
It is, and I think a lot of learning goes on during this meeting, and we have to continue telling this story that this is important in a proper way, not as a war, not as a conflict, but as a normal discussion. And if we can get across with this message, I think we can get very far. The problem right now is it has been very polarized, the discussion. So we have some that are really in favor of letting the animals starve to death in the nature because wild animals do so. And then the other side which says that animals in nature is cruelty by itself. And nothing. This is wrong. This is wrong. The real, the truth lies in between. And we have to deal with this.
Are we getting to a better place with that discussion? I think it's been going quite high the last couple of years, right?
It has, and it's still going very, very tough. It's still a lot, and I think it will be difficult to get out of this war between the two poles in this discussion. But I think we have to carry on sending the message and also show some example where it really works. And there are many places in Denmark where you have cattle and horses in nature where it functions very well. And then if it doesn't function well, then we have a law system that can sanction it, that can take it up, and then there are sanctions just as if you break the law in any other ways. And that's how it has to be. And we have to be prepared. And also, going back to the wolf just for a second, I think it's good that we have the possibility to, if you get a single wolf, an individual wolf that for some reason has become a problem, which means that it has found out that it's too easy to eat the sheep on this field, and no matter what, it gets under the fence, then you're allowed to shoot it. In those special cases, so what we call the problem wolves, we should be able to eradicate them, because that is the insurance for people that if problems really create problems, if a wolf really creates problems, then we can handle the problems. Because if we don't allow the shooting of problem wolves, then people say, well, what should we do if we have a problem? We have no sanctions against it, we cannot solve the problem, then we'd have a steady conflict between humans and wolves. And that is bad for the wolf too, because the more conflict we have...
Exactly, that's how they get eradicated.
Exactly, because the more conflict we have, the more people then try themselves to shoot them, or they get mad on them, and then we'll never solve the problem. We have to make people understand that they can and should live together with the wolves.
That's right.
So that's my opinion.
So of course this is day 2, and tomorrow is
another day, which is good.
And then it's all done. When you get home, what would be your hopes for this entire?
I hope the waves, the vibes from this meeting will carry on and not end. I mean, but I'm sure they will, because people get home from this meeting enthusiastic and carry on doing what they are used to do. And some people do this for professional reasons, and some do it just for their hobby. But we can all make our own contribution to making nature great again, to use a phrase. Because this is really what we need. And to make, I think a lot of problems can be solved up here. People get a new view on things and get a little bit more...
And get closer to each other.
Much closer to each other, and find out that sometimes things are not black and white, it's more complex, and then take that into consideration when they go back home and look at their own field, their own wood, their own forest, etc. What should I do with this? They get inspired up here, find out it can be done. And also you get a lot of good networking, so you get to know people, and you get some relations to people, and find out, now I know I can call him or her if I have problems. It's easier because now I know the people, instead of just finding in the phone book, who should I call?
Relations is everything.
It's everything. I mean, nature management is a management of people, because people make the decisions. And if you cannot make relations, you cannot manage nature properly. So I hope the spirit from up here will continue, and I'm sure it will. So we can build a bridge until next year, where we'll have the same meeting in the same place at the same time of the year, and then continue to see how far have we come during the past year. That's my hope.
I think it's kind of a mic drop moment. Nature management is a management of people. So
it is.
Just stop on that now.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You're welcome. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
You always invite us for tasting your gin, which I
appreciate very much.
Good, I'll do that in the future also.
Yeah. So you'll give an introduction to you
Yes.
and the entire...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much. Yeah, as you mentioned, my name is Rasmus Willumsen. I'm head of our client and innovation departments in Dalgas. I'll come back to that.
Yeah.
I'll talk about Hedeselskabet at first. We are an old foundation in Denmark, 160 years now. We've always been working with nature, with and by nature, with forestry, nature conservation, other things, water, both on ground and in the water.
Yeah.
And we are a foundation aiming at making a sustainable way of dealing with nature. As actually our mission is, we are building a sustainable future, partnering with nature. So it's also always with the nature.
Yeah.
And back to Dalgas Hedeselskabet, so we are clear on that. Hedeselskabet is the foundation, and Hedeselskabet has the business part is Dalgas.
Yeah.
So we have the foundation and we have Dalgas where we do the business.
Yeah.
And when I say business, it's forestry, it's landscaping, it's nature conservation, facility service in the cities.
Yeah.
Everything where things grow and have something with nature. Also in the water with helping.
Actually, just maybe you mentioned with the water in the background, something like that's from.
Yeah. Actually, that's made from some wheat from the water.
Yeah.
And we are looking at a sustainable way of producing the necessary materials. We're looking at this eelgrass. I don't know if it's the right name in English. How can we use that in a sustainable way? We're looking at hardwood, of course. We're looking at biomass, wood chips in a sustainable way. Wood chips to replace fossil fuels, and of course wood for building houses, a more sustainable material than concrete and steel and so on. Yeah. So we're working a lot with that. We call it nature-based solutions.
Yeah.
So a smart way of dealing with the important problems with climate, being climate, biodiversity, resourcing of sustainable materials. That's our main goal.
Yeah.
How did you come up with the name Dalgas?
Dalgas. That's we are an old company, and Dalgas was the founder back in 1866. So we had really a huge list of names. We changed names last year because we are we are Danish founded, but we are an international company. Presently doing business in primarily 5 countries around the Baltic Sea: Denmark, Germany, Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania. And with Hede Denmark and Hedeselskabet, it's a bit hard to pronounce.
Yeah.
So we were looking for a new name, and what's more natural than Dalgas? Our founder, we are quite proud of him. He was a pioneer in evolving the Danish countryside. So that's why we're called Dalgas, and it's easy to pronounce in all countries.
Yeah.
The founder, he was engineering officer or office engineer. I don't know what's it called, but he was in the Danish army, and unfortunately we were at war with Germany, 1864, many years ago, and we lost, unfortunately, and we lost 1/3 of our whole country to Germany. And he came back from war, and in 1866 or 1865, he was committed to making a new road in the middle of Jutland. And he went to Viborg, and he saw huge areas, non-productive areas. Actually, if I remember correctly, 1/3 or 1/2 of Jutland was heather at that time. Really poor land, poor soil, no production on that. Really poor people also.
Yeah.
And he thought, okay, we've lost 1/3 of our country. You have to do something. And he said, what's the problem here? Is of course the heather, and it's mainly the first thing was the wind. It was moving, preventing things from growing.
Yeah.
So he started, how could we plant? We need someone to finance this planting. So he must have been quite charismatic, because he was able to both engage the local people in doing the hard work, plowing the heather and planting and so on, but also funding the financial part with people with more money from the eastern part of Denmark.
It's impressive.
Yeah.
Back in those days.
Yeah, really. So, and actually, it was kind of it became a public goal of. He got the whole country engaged, but also the king and the government and so on. This is a really important cause. We have to rise again after the war. So from 1866 and forward, a really huge part of the country were converted to fertile land and to forests and to built against the wind and so on. So that actually was the start of it.
Yeah.
And he got, of course, both the local foundation in Viborg with some of the local authorities, but in the whole of Denmark. And he had a huge network. He was able to talk both, with the locals and going to Copenhagen, hold a big meeting and sponsoring conference or something like that.
Yeah.
He did that a lot. So that's how it started. And actually, before, not in 1866, but some years before, we only had 3% of forest cover in Denmark.
Wow!
And now we are at 15.
Yeah.
So it's a huge shift.
Yeah. So if you travel on the west side of Jutland, the trees you see because of him.
Yeah, but actually huge parts of Jutland, because I have the same, and most people have the same idea that it's the western part.
Okay.
But actually there was heather all the way to Randers and Aarhus and down to Silkeborg. It was heather all over. So actually, and it's not all, we like to take all credit, but it's not only due to us. The state did also a huge task, but it was really a big transformation of the country.
Yeah.
Yeah, and when you study to become a forest manager in Denmark, you go 1 year to a sort of internship as a forester, and I was 1 year at one of these plantations that basically started because of Dalgas, and he's like a hero on the wall, and so I can.
But he's probably not as known for a lot of people, but actually one of the people that, given this, have changed the entire country.
Really?
The most.
Really. And there's a lot of places where they have a Dalgas Road or Dalgas Boulevard or a statue of him. So but of course, a long time people tend to forget. But I think, he had a huge impact. He really did.
Yeah.
So, and it's interesting in the present context with what is happening in Denmark with a new big forestry scheme and land change. So we are seeing something of the same again.
Yeah.
Yes. And we know each other for some years.
Yes.
With Skovkortet. Yes. We're using that for our forestry owners, so they can we have a map system, and they can get their own forestry map.
Have you seen through the years a change in how the forest owners are acting, or what are the requirements from them?
Yes, of course. In time, things involves, people involves, and the society involves, and we experience a broader variety of forest owners, looking at different aims with or goals with their forest, moving from primarily production, hunting, and so on, to now also biodiversity and of course climate. And it's really interesting to make these things get together, because, as we say, it's not one or the other, it's both. Yeah. You can have production, actually production and climate goes along, but you can have climate and production, you can have production and biodiversity and climate and so on. So actually it's really interesting getting the right mix for the forest owner.
That's also how I see it, because we still need the production, because, as you also mentioned, we need to find a way of building more renewable.
Yeah.
So we need to replace the concrete and the steel, and tree is just timber is just.
It's the best material. Yeah. And actually, if you look, the demand for wood and wood fibers in the world is hugely increasing. So we have to make a right way to produce that.
Yeah. And that's a lot of interesting stuff going on in that area as well.
It really is. Yes. And it's the forest owners are really curious on what about mount forest? How is that in relation to climate? How much carbon does it sequester and so on? So it's a whole new dialogue we're having with the forest owners.
Yeah. The forest is. It's got a lot of attention there.
Yeah, really. Yeah, and actually, the forest is in many parts it's seen as the solution. And of course, the forest can't solve everything, but clear groundwater. Public like to go in the forest. It's healthy to be in the forest. We have mentioned the climate. We have mentioned the biodiversity, the resources. So it's really it's a multitude, so to say.
Is it? You mentioned you operate in different countries as well.
Yes. Yeah.
Is it sort of the same demand from the people around it?
It's a bit different. Actually, in Denmark, forestry is production, but it's also quite often nice to own a forest, or some kind of status symbol to own a forest for some forest owners. Whereas in Germany, and particularly in the Baltic countries, it's more of an investment and a production business, as a business, yes. But also there we are seeing the shift towards biodiversity or including biodiversity and climate. So it's not the same, and that's why it's so interesting, because the interesting part is talking with the forest owner, the individual forest owner. Listening to what is important for you, because we can go out as foresters and say, I know this forest, you should do this and this, but you have to listen and say, okay, what's important for you, and if this is your aim, then we have to do this and this and this, because there's different ways of growing your forest.
Yeah, and of course, also as you mentioned, because it has so many purposes.
Yes,
exactly. Of course, it will be different what you do with it.
Yes. But we also noticed, both from the forest owners but also from the surrounding society, higher demand of documentation of what we're doing it, why we're doing it, how we're doing it, and traceability is a huge thing and also growing. So mapping, digital tools and so on is getting increasingly important.
Yeah, and that's of course why we also exist somehow.
You're a big part of that, of course.
There's an increase in that.
Yes.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Rasmus.
You're welcome.
It's been a pleasure as always.
Yeah. Same. You too.
We have Anton Johnsen from That's really Danish. Krat and co.
Really Danish. What's it in English? Krat, is that the bush thing?
And a cow.
Bush and cows. Yeah. Bushes and cows.
Yeah. That's an awesome name.
Yeah, thank you. It's more awesome in Danish, I would say.
Yeah, it actually sounds quite good in Danish.
Yeah, thank you.
So maybe could you introduce your company and what you do?
So we come from forestry as practitioners. We are the ones sort of running around with the chainsaw.
Yeah.
But then we wanted to be more, could you say, affiliated with biodiversity and other organisms than solely production wood.
Yeah.
So we started to focus a little bit on how we could invite other organisms into the forests, and so we specialized in, for instance, hollows, how to make hollows in trees, but also what we call it's called hazelmus turning in a overall term, but it's a biodiversity thinning.
Yeah.
So where we are doing thinnings in forests where we want to create a bigger variation in the forest picture.
Yeah.
So instead of when usually we are thinning in production forest, we thin so we have the good trees that we see a production potential in.
Yeah.
The biodiversity thinning is almost opposite.
Yeah.
We take out some of the good, straight, healthy trees to make room for small trees, small bushes, but also bigger trees that have tendencies to build up a low krone. What's that in English? Krone, low.
The crown.
Maybe a lower crown.
Yeah.
So we give them space in order to have a more varied picture in the forest. Yeah. And then we sometimes combine it with these hollows we establish, and also we pull down trees so they come up with the root, stuff like that. So all kinds of things. Yeah.
So when did you start? When did you start on that journey?
I think around 5-6 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. You just witnessed.
I was attending your debate earlier.
Yeah,
and,
that was something completely else.
Yeah, that was on.
That's the cows thing.
Yeah, that's the cows thing. It's rewilding, I guess, is kind of the overall term.
Yeah,
but it's
actually,
about,
we're not that fond of the term rewilding,
Okay.
actually, for different kind of reasons, but mainly because it's associated with so much feelings, and we wanted to take the focus back on the the faglighed.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Yeah.
Yeah, but back to what research is saying and
Exactly.
what's actually the facts, not
in
the
Denmark.
feelings.
In Denmark, there are so much feelings connected to the word rewilding, and what we want to do is all-year grazing.
Yeah.
We want to emphasize animal welfare. It's very important for us. So we have a lot of cooperations with the scientists who does animal welfare sciences, and so that's our main focus: all-year grazing and animal welfare. Then it is related to what other people call rewilding, but
It's
what we
also
don't.
big word. What does it even mean?
Yeah. So, sorry.
That's okay. But you ended up talking about this, about harassment, how you guys that actually do these things and have the animals are harassed. But how do you tackle that personally?
Yeah, well, that's a personal question.
Okay. Sorry.
So actually, it is a personal question, and it's up to the individuals who get harassed how they will handle it personally.
Have you been?
Yes, we have, and it has been quite difficult for us to know how to navigate in it.
Yeah.
But I think we found our way in it. But what I would say more in general terms about the harassment is that we can see in Denmark that it actually means that good nature management is becoming more and more difficult, and it's also becoming more and more expensive. So actually the taxpayers' money is spent very poorly because of this harassment.
Yeah.
One of the things is and that's a problem, I think. I can see.
Yes. So what you're saying is that it's not just affecting you personally; it's actually affecting all of us.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's all the taxpayers' money, and we have a democracy, and we decided that we want more wild nature in Denmark, but it's being difficult and more expensive than it needs to be because of this. Yeah. So it's a societal problem. It's also a problem for me personally, but who actually gives a fuck about that? Sorry. other things than me and my wife, of course. We deal about it.
But I guess also it's I come from university side. I've also been a researcher, but this way of looking at it from the people that harass you without any logic, I simply can't get that. You can talk to the biologist, anyone who works with animals says it's a good idea.
Yeah.
But it's not a good idea.
No. But I think it's not just about our line of work.
No.
It's a more general thing about how our society is with social media and all that kind of things, and people who never had a voice in society now starting to have a voice, and it's just super difficult.
Yeah.
It's happening everywhere, right? In every country.
Yeah, you're right.
And
you're right. It's not.
If I should take it really far, Trump is in power because of these structures, right? He's a so-me monster. Sorry, maybe don't quote me on that. But you know, so it's not just in our line of work, and that's why it's so. It doesn't make any sense logically. The harassment, but it's because it's also a symptom of something else that has nothing to do with the all year grazing action.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. I think that's my analysis.
Yeah.
Right.
So you just told that you actually, in I think 20 minutes or so, need to go to a new talk.
Yeah.
What's the topic on this one then?
No, so that's more about the hollows and the veterization. So we would like to differentiate between creating deadwood and making habitats for other organisms. So we would like to say that when we do that's a really difficult question or word in English for me, but
we get it.
Yeah. So we have veteran trees, and veteran trees have certain characteristics, and we're trying to imitate that.
Yeah.
A veteran tree is not a dead tree. A veteran tree is still alive.
Yeah.
It still have a lot of life in it, right?
Yeah.
But it's kind of stagnated.
Yeah.
But if you have an oak, you can have a veteran oak that lives for 200-300 years still, right?
Yeah.
But then after the veteran phase, then they will go over in the death phase, and it can also be in the death phase for a lot of years. But then it's something else.
Yeah.
So when we make these things in the trees, we would like to imitate a veteran tree that still have a lot of life, but have hollows and dead branches and all kinds of things, right?
Yeah.
So that's the talk about. And then we have some demos, because we make some hollows that are specific, targeted to certain organisms. It could be bats.
Yeah.
Or it could be birds living in the trees. It could be smaller insects, stuff like that. Then we have some different models. What we see is that many organisms are really craving for these hollows.
Yeah.
So whatever kind of hollow we make, some things moves in right away.
Okay, so right away.
Yeah. Maybe it's not something very interesting. Maybe it's not a very rare beetle or a bat or something, but something moves in.
Yeah.
So that tells me, and we made a lot. They're really, you can't make enough of these hollows.
Okay.
So, and if you make them in a certain way that you don't kill the tree in a slow way, then we still have the forest, the trees in the forest.
Yeah.
So for me, it's very important to distinct these veteranizations between making deadwood within a small scale of 1 to 20 years, or making a thing where the trees live on for maybe 200 years, even though we made a hollow in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you go about finding those trees? Is that
so that's about I'm a
black magician.
Yeah, exactly. No. It's about the species.
Yeah.
So oak are really good.
Yeah.
Birch is really bad.
Okay.
Beech is also quite good.
Okay.
Willow is also bad. So, for instance, birch and willow. Birch has a strategy of just producing a lot of kids, and then not being very old. But that's their way of. And willow has a strategy of I'll just grow, and then I break down, but I keeps on growing, right? But that's those strategies are not very suitable for making hollows.
Okay.
Because otherwise the birch will just die within 30 or 50 years anyway.
Yeah.
And then we want the hollow to stay on for 100 years.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Or the willow will just break down where we made it maybe, or lower or something. Then it's also bad. But we can make it in those trees as well, but And then there's something about the structure in the tree, and I could go on forever about that. So yeah.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, but Anton, I don't think we should take up more of your time. You
Thank
need
you.
You eat also.
You need, yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah, you need to eat and
it's
you
fine.
need to prepare.
I just found a really nice, cool soda. I should show you guys.
Yeah.
I don't know this brand, but look how beautiful it is.
That's a commercial.
Product placement there.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, but thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
It
Thank
was
you.
a pleasure.
Nice to talk to you guys.
See you.